Good. Something in my throat. Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Things are going great. The future is bright. We're going to talk about it all today. Lots going on. Pardon the tardy start. We're doing it in honor of our favorite tard, Jay Powell. Trotard. Too late. Jerome Powell. Washed up, as we see from Lee J369 in the chat. He's washed up. Last day on the job. Bye-bye, Jay Powell. New chief in town, indeed. We got JJ Fox saying, yay, there's a show. Good morning, Great Awakeners. Glad to be with all this morning. It's a historic day. We're going to have fun talking about what a historic day it is. Morning, plebaninos. Good morning, wake up gang. Good morning, young Tommy. Good morning, Count and crew. Good morning, and bye-bye, Jay Powell. Indeed, Chatelet nerds. How many free egg rolls can Trump consume? Why won't the Fed Reserve Twitter page acknowledge their new boss? Are we tired of winning? Indeed. Hello from Abu Dhabi, says Manny21 BTC. Hope you're doing well out in Abu Dhabi. Funny Abu Dhabi story. The last time I was in Abu Dhabi, well, that's not true. I took a flight from Abu Dhabi back in February, but I was there in December on a separate trip. And I know a few people in Abu Dhabi, but not like a ton of people. And I know one Emirati in particular. He's got a condo that I use as a crash pad when I'm in Dubai. He's really from Abu Dhabi. He's the guy I spend most of my time with when I'm out there. And it was my last day in Abu Dhabi, and I had a few hours before I was going to go catch my flight back in Dubai. And, I don't really have a plan. I had a thing to do with some folks, like an event in the day at a restaurant with Zuby, actually. And so I said, well, I'll just stick around here. And there was like a bus that would bring me right to the airport. So I said, I'll just do that, right? That's a good plan. And so I'm walking around and I see a guy, and I'm just judging his, sort of body. And I say, but there, everyone wears the clothes, right? The local Emirati clothes. And I said, that looks like him, but I can't be him. And I've already taken like a very random road. I'm just killing time by walking around. And I say, isn't that funny? Like the one guy I know that looks just like him. And as I get closer, sure enough, it is him. And, all things were great. He was on his way to the airport anyway. I got a ride. I got to hang out. We had some fun, right? Just, it's a pretty big city, Abu Dhabi. Of all the people, of all the roads. And I mean, I literally at the last minute swung to go on that road. I had my luggage and everything, right? I checked out of the hotel. I was gone. And, I always find that a funny story. Good morning, Vietnam. Good morning, Eastside Tony. Hope you're doing well. You guys are going to love the fake news today. I got some good ones. Good morning, crew. I've decided to sell all my Bitcoin, donated to the comedy of his defense fund, to Comey and his defense fund. Nolan was correct and the experts were right. Don't be racist, guys. Do the same. Giving all your Bitcoin to a white man, a racist. Exactly. Comey is the good white guy. Experts have shown me Trump is the bad white guy. Come on, CB. We've long enough to know that. Indeed. Just heard Trump bragging in China. How many Chinese restaurants are in the US? I did see that. Yeah. They're starting. Trump was listing a bunch of things that to show the cultural crossover. He was like, they got blue jeans and they're doing all this stuff, and you should see the men of Chinese restaurants now. So good. So good. All right. Indeed, everyone. That's a sunrise. We got John Otoro saying good morning. I am Double B with the sun and the thumbs up. It's a small world, man. He says, indeed it is. And we got Terminator Eggs. BTC is running, indeed. And the sun is up. Those are my lines. We got 79,000 US trash tokens for a Bitcoin today. Let's have some coffee and talk about what's new. Let's start by finding out how the NPCs are doing. It's not going well, guys. We've got some major problems out there. Wait until you see this. I know sometimes you guys are like, how is this even possible? But I hope you're not near Australia or Antarctica right now, because it turns out scientists have discovered the Southern Ocean, guys. The Southern Ocean is sweating. Can you imagine? And like, I know I sweat even when I do this show because it gets hot on the outside and the sun comes through and I sweat. But imagine you're an ocean. Can you just picture an ocean sweating? How scary is that? As climate change more, it's sweating more as climate change intensifies. Somebody bring it the antiperspirant. A remote island between Australia and Antarctica is showing signs of a dramatic climate transformation. Scientists found storms over Macquarie Island now unleash much heavier rainfall than they did decades ago. Guys, the ocean is sweating. It's sweating. We had corn sweat, and now we've got ocean sweat, right? Ocean sweat. It's a thing. Ocean sweat. We had ocean spray drinks. Now we've got ocean sweat. And just as it's sweating, we're wondering, does the Arctic Ocean regulate or amplify global warming? Researchers found that interactions between methane gas and seawater affected greenhouse gas emissions. This was, remember we learned about this? It was the nano atoms. And they're causing all the trouble. They got nano atoms, nanoscale atomic problems with the Arctic Ocean. It's no good. And you're not going to believe this, guys. We got oceans sweating, right? But this is kind of counterintuitive. Why more intense bursts of rain are making the planet drier. Why more rain is making the planet drier? I bet you this has to do with climate change, everyone. I hope not. I hope not. Please, not another by the time the world is warm by 2 degrees. Oh no. We could be living under abnormally dry conditions brought by the shifting timing and intensity of rainfall. Guys, the Earth's average temperature is up. The Earth's average temperature is up. We got major problems, and now it's drier because of all the rain. Oh, no. And all you guys, I know you're saying, oh, enough of this. I'm not worried about all of these global warming things. What else is on? Who won the game last night? You know that old meme? Who won the game last night? You think you can hide from climate change? No. You want to be a sports baller and you want to pay attention to other things and not worry about the end of the world? Wrong answer, motherfuckers. Climate change is a big player at the FIFA World Cup 2026. Guys, many stories on this. Here we go from the UNN. 2026 FIFA World Cup could face dangerous heat due to climate change. Not just because it's summer, it's climate change. Up to a quarter of the 2026 World Cup matches will take place under dangerous heat conditions, threatening players and fans. The final and key matches of the tournament are at risk. New York City in the summer. Are we going to make it? We got more AOL researchers. Oh, no, that's not it. I guess that was, oh no, I do have more of these. I knew I had more. World Cup 2026 could see players and fans face dangerous heat and humidity due to climate change. Experts warn there's a 1 in 8 chance the World Cup final could be played at a temperature where the body is less able to cool itself. Oh no, the body can't cool itself. And a 3% chance it could be during conditions considered unsafe. Players playing soccer in an unsafe environment in New York City in the summer. No way. Can't believe it. Everyone's going to die. We're not going to make it. We got more. The heat at the World Cup in North America will exceed safe playing conditions for several matches, guys. For several matches, we're doomed. It's going to be too hot. So if you think you're sitting over there and you're laughing at more rain makes it drier, or the oceans are sweating more, and you're saying, I'm not going to worry about that, I'm just going to enjoy my life and watch some sports. Wrong answer. You're going to die. It's too hot and it won't be safe enough to play soccer. All right. Give me your money now. Send it here. This whole platform, I'm going to donate it for you. I'm going to donate it to climate change research. And there's a wallet here on this platform, right? Although it is using, I think every Bitcoin transaction is like driving across the country. So in a car, in a semi truck. So that is, maybe we can do better than Bitcoin for this donation to the UN. So I don't know what we should do right now, but pray, everyone, pray. Maybe sacrifice some stuff, right? I'm not saying sacrifice your children. That would be a little extreme, but don't have any children, right? And then no one's going to bug you to go to a World Cup game. So that could be an answer for you. Daddy, can I go to the World Cup game? No, it's unsafe. We're all going to die. It's too hot. Don't do it, right? And just as all that's going on, like I said, researchers issue climate change warning as sea ice in Antarctica melts to record lows, guys. You know, we went over there. It was simultaneous. I know the story I brought you at the beginning of the week when we were talking about the fungi. The fungi in Antarctica is threatened now also because of climate change. And so we had this really great data set, right, about the amount of fungi in Antarctica. We went and counted it. All right. We used satellite. We counted the fungi in Antarctica. Just like we counted and were able to measure the sea ice in Antarctica. I know you're saying humans can't measure the sea ice in Antarctica. Antarctica is as big as America. No, we did it, guys. We got mollusk shells, okay? We got tree ring cores from thousands of years ago. They're all giving us clues. We got the clues. We put the story together and we know exactly how much sea ice there was as well in Antarctica. And now we know how much there is because we just have a constant rolling data set on the extent of the sea ice in Antarctica. Guys, it's so obvious. Like we know all this stuff about the sea ice. And now we know it shrunk. Okay. It shrunk. And scientists say it's due to a series of interconnected climate change driven phenomena. So Antarctica, the oceans are sweating, the ice is shrinking, right? And now we get this. Some climate shocks can increase the likelihood of war. It's getting so hot, we're going to have war. It's too hot out. War everywhere. Not only that, how climate change could help hantavirus find more hosts, guys. We're going to get a pandemic. You can't go to soccer. The oceans are sweating. We got way less ice. Trust me, bro. And we got this news, wars coming and pandemics because of the heat. This rat is so unhappy. It's too hot for him. He's going to give you hantavirus. You can't get away from it. And now, just as all this is going on, right, with all this calamity, and now we're trying to solve it, right? And I'm telling you, we need money. You got to give your money. I got to give my money. We all got to pay for this because we don't want to die of climate change induced hantavirus and we don't want war, right? So we got to give all our money. Meanwhile, stupid Trump out there talking about getting rid of income tax. How else are we going to pay to stop the ice from shrinking in Antarctica? This is what they're saying. Republicans' plan for zero state income tax could be devastating. It could be devastating. Could you imagine the hantavirus if you stop paying income taxes? We're not going to be able to do this. No more. It could be devastating. The experts are telling you in clear language, we need the tax. Otherwise, devastation. We're going to die. It's going to be way too hot if you don't pay taxes. That's what's up. And now I know I covered this yesterday, but it's the same people that don't want to give you the tax money, that want the devastation, and they don't care about the hantavirus, right? Everyone's now complaining about the Ulysses movie, right? Why Elon Musk, look what Elon's up to, right? I saw him out there all giddy in China, taking selfies. Everyone wants a selfie with him. He's doing the autistic twirl again, twirling around on stage, right? Meanwhile, it's all good for him. He's the richest person in the world, right? Meanwhile, why Elon Musk and his troll army are attacking, right? And they aren't just silly, but they're wildly inaccurate. Everyone knows that Helen of Troy was black. All right? Everybody knows. And it's inaccurate. It's so terrible, Elon. Why are you doing this to your legacy? From the team that brought you, why is Snow White Latina? Why are black people in the rings of power? And Star Wars has gone woke comes the latest online onslaught against the diverse cast of the Odyssey. These culture wars have been led to battle by their own personal Agamemnon, Elon Musk. He's got an army. Terrible. So bad. Why doesn't he spend his money on trying to stop the ocean from sweating in Antarctica? Stop it. Stop. So that's what's going on. That is what's going on, guys. Unreal, but all true. These were all news headlines. Send the ocean some electrolytes. Yeah. Sweating all them electrolytes out. It can't handle the heat. You just can't handle it. It's got to get out of the kitchen, ocean. Can't handle the heat. Don't you guys get too excited about this World Cup. People are going to die. It's going to be too hot. Too hot for the World Cup. Can't do it. Can't play soccer. Right? Soccer of all sports. I mean, imagine trying to play soccer in the heat, right? I mean, just because Brazil is one of the greatest soccer countries in the history of the world doesn't mean you can go around playing soccer in the heat, right? No way. It's got to be cold. We all know the cold countries are better at soccer, right? Look at Canada. Look at Sweden. Look at Iceland. These are the soccer powerhouses. No one plays soccer where it's hot. No one's ever done that before. Who would do such a dumb thing as run around and play soccer when it's hot? Right? Football. Who wants to play football when it's hot? So there we go. There we go. Escape the Matrix. Here's the full panel from the conference with G, Nolan, Paymon, and some retard. Chef Zero in the house. The earth is the Lord, the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Every moment upholds creation and his testimony of his glorious righteousness indeed. So there you go, folks. There you go. Sweat. If you're uncertain, it's likely sweat. You got it. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Mm-hmm. Sweat, yeah, corn sweat making a comeback soon, says ES Empire. You're gonna see that. You sweat because of the Max Suntech. Yeah, you're gonna corn sweat any day. Everyone knows Pele was white. He was basically from he was like from the north. He was a Slavic soccer player, guys. Pele was really from Belarus. He's a Belarusian. He's a Belarusian soccer player. That's what everyone knows. Obviously, guys. It's never been, no one ever has played soccer in the heat before. Who would do such a dumb thing? Come on, it's like hockey. You should be playing. That's where we got the idea for hockey. Everyone was so used to playing soccer in the ice. And someone said, we need knives on our feet if we're going to play this game any longer. It's so slippery out and so cold. And that's how it's an unknown story. That's where hockey comes from. It was just all the people playing soccer in the north, and they had enough. It was really the Santa's elves. They had enough of all the slipping around because everyone knows soccer is best played in the ice. So that's what we got. Let's take a sip of coffee and talk about all the new stuff that's going on in the world. So we're gonna start obviously, with what's going on with the China trip. China. So, do you know that I someone did a compilation yesterday of the Trump saying China, and it was mostly from his first term. And something that I noticed that's pretty funny is that I don't even notice the strange pronunciation that Trump has when he says China, because I think he's so altered the way everyone talks about China that it doesn't register anymore like it did back in 2015 and 2016. Every time he said China, it was kind of funny because he had just this really strange, bizarre way of pronouncing China that I can't quite put my finger on what it is. But we all noticed his China, right? Everyone did his China in impersonation. But I saw the compilation again, and it was an old compilation. Like I said, it was like a compilation from probably 10 years ago, and it doesn't sound weird anymore. I think he actually managed to change how everyone in America says the word China. And I think there is a new way to say the word China now because of the way he said it. He does the same with industry, and that one I'll never get used to. I actually hate the way he says industry. It irritates me. And industry. It's like an I, not an industry. He insists on the industry. And I don't know, maybe it's my strange accent. I just say industry, almost like there's an I there, not a U. And he insists on that U. China. Yeah, China. But do you know what I mean? Like it was a whole compilation of Trump saying China, and it just doesn't hit like it did 10 years ago. I think he's normalized his version of the pronunciation. These things happen. As you know, I refuse to say Iran, Muslim, right? I won't, Qatar. No. I use the old pronunciations of all of these Middle Eastern words. It's Qatar, Iran, and of course Muslim. We don't say Muslim. Pakistan. I won't say any of those things. I will never do it. But I say China now, like Trump. So I am willing to change. Right? I am willing to change. I didn't mean to change. It just happened. So here we go. We got the first up is the welcome. So we'll talk about the China trip. I'll talk first about the setting. There was some setting stuff, some intros that I found very interesting, and the way he was welcomed, the way Trump and the American delegation was welcomed. Then we're going to talk a little bit about what Trump, a little bit about what Xi in particular said, because he gave some pretty interesting statements about the partnership and not rivalry between the United States and China. And I think my prediction yesterday came true in that we heard about systemic change, which was about the Thucydides trap, which was something that Xi mentioned particularly overtly and out front. So now you're on clear Bitcoin territory, and we'll talk about all that. So first up, the welcome. Very interesting stuff from the welcome. Is this it? Yeah. No, that's not it. Just a second, everyone. That's a Mario Nawfall. There. I don't know why these things go out of order sometimes. I just don't. I have to find the one that I share to have the audio. So here's just a fun the way Trump arrived. Of course, there's all these people hoping Trump gets put in his place by Xi and all that stuff. And they were trying to make an issue because Trump stopped his motorcade in the middle of traffic, in the middle of the road in China to check out the reception. And everyone is still trying to say, oh, Trump is breaking protocol. What an insult, right? That's one of the attacks that are coming out. But anyway, Trump very, very graciously welcomed, huge ceremonies, pretty amazing stuff. And Trump put out this video right away from the White House handle. And you see the welcome here, and Eric Trump behind him. And you see the whole gang was there in this picture. Pretty amazing stuff. And some people out there pointing out the difference between Trump's welcome and the welcome that we saw from Obama on his last
bumpy start, as he didn't receive the red carpet treatment usually offered to world leaders.
So this
Our
was the
OCR
last
has more.
visit by Obama to
Was it a carefully
China.
calculated snub or
Nobody
a simple
cared. He was all
mishap on the
alone.
behalf
It
of
was
the
a big
Chinese?
disaster. I've played that on this show before. So a big difference in reception. These receptions are a big deal because the famous capitulation tour that Trump went on in 2017 launched these welcome parties for Trump. The first one, of course, was the sword dance in Saudi Arabia. And since then, we've seen these over and over again. If you remember Trump's trip to the Middle East last year around this time, it would have been May 2025. Lots of pomp, lots of ceremony. And again, the Chinese did it yesterday. So I think there's some meaning to this stuff. I really do. I think that there is some meaning to all of these things. Speaking of meaning, the itinerary of Trump's first day also seemed to have a lot of meaning. A lot of people picked up on this. This is a picture. Oh, no, that's not it. I'll get you the picture of it so you see where they went. So here they are outside of this temple. I think I have a straight picture of it. Let me try and find it. There it is. So here they are outside the Temple of Heaven together today. This was one of the official pictures, and turns out Xi gave Trump a personal tour. Xi gave Trump a personal tour of the Temple of Heaven, one of China's most sacred and revered sites. I know one of you in the chat yesterday reminded me that the French and English holding the humiliation court there when they took over China during the Boxer Revolution era, and how the century of humiliation was sort of punctuated by occupation of the Temple of Heaven here in Beijing was, part of the story. Marinofal says, this is by no means a casual gesture. A personal guided tour of the Temple of Heaven by the head of state is the equivalent to rolling out every red carpet simultaneously. It signals Beijing wants this relationship to work and wants Trump to feel it. Xi is investing significant political symbolism in Trump before a single negotiation begins, which tells you how much China needs a deal on trade and how much leverage Xi believes he can extract by making Trump feel respected. The expectation runs both ways, though. When Xi visits the U.S., he was invited. Xi will be around, I think, in September in the United States. He will expect a similar VIP treatment, but it shows the relationship can be win-win, not only zero-sum. When the world's two largest economies decide to treat each other with a ceremony rather than confrontation, markets notice, oil prices notice, and Iran notices. What happens in Beijing today matters far beyond trade, and that is absolutely true. We've been talking about that for a while. They also went here to the Great Hall of the People, then moved the whole delegation to the Temple of Heaven. Indeed, again, it's important. The venue choice is not subtle. Chinese emperors perform ceremonies there to claim divine legitimacy to rule. Beijing picked it on purpose. Trump called the meeting great, while Xi told the U.S. delegation China's door to the world will open wider. Big smiles, careful words, and zero details on what was actually discussed so far, but we have some details. Here, this note here, talking about what we know from some of the deals. So first of all, on Iran, apparently, holy crap, President Xi has agreed to the following wins for President Trump. On Iran, give the U.S. anything Trump needs. So they've agreed that no nuclear armament of Iran is a priority. This is all the boring stuff, the soybeans and the oil and the LNG. The 200 jets is pretty interesting. But that's part of what the deal has already come up with. Here we see more. Trump and Xi agree Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and the Strait of Hormuz must stay open. Xi opposes the militarization of the strait and any effort to charge tolls for its use. China expressed, this is the boring, oh no, that's not it. China expressed interest in buying more U.S. oil. Very good news. Both sides aligned on the nuclear red line of Iran. So, again, I don't think that the United States needs Iran in this question at all. Sorry, needs China to deal with Iran anymore. I thought so maybe about a month and a bit ago. I don't think it's the case any longer. I think that because they're not going to escalate, that there's just simply no need to deal with it. I think everything's rerouting around the Strait of Hormuz, and it's now just a regional issue. And as long as America can keep the energy flowing out of Venezuela and Guyana and all these other places, I just can't imagine that the Strait of Hormuz can rise to the level of, major global choke point any longer. It's been completely recast, and there's all kinds of workarounds. So a little more on the details here from Nick Sortor. Here's sharing a video from Fox. I'll play that because it's some of the first indications of what's coming out over there. Hold on.
Hey, Todd and Carly, good morning to you. And we just got a readout from the White House on this big bilateral meeting between the two presidents. So I'll read a couple of notes that I've taken away from this statement. They talked about expanding market access for American businesses into China. Remember, the president brought this delegation of 16 CEOs from different business and tech backgrounds. They also talked about wanting more progress on stopping the flow of fentanyl. That's something the president brought up. Now, the Chinese purchases of American agricultural products was also something that was brought up in these discussions. And
sounds like the fentanyl is going way down, though, from what I understand. I wish I paid attention to it more. I, of course, will always acknowledge that when Scott Adams decided to destroy China, it was because of the fentanyl issue. And many people, and I reported it here not long after he died, that there were some statistics and data, but I don't believe statistics and data. But anyway, it confirmed what I hope was happening, which was less fentanyl already. So I think Xi has made pretty good on that comment, on that promise from last year. Hopefully.
President Xi expressed interest in purchasing more American oil to reduce China's dependence on the strait in the future. That's a really big takeaway. So we're going to focus on that as well. Also, both countries agree that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. And after reading through this readout, there was really nothing in there that said that China was going to help pressure Iran in any way to ending the conflict. We were wondering if that was going to come up. It has,
again, don't think we need it, and no reason to ask for something you don't need.
It's been an incredibly busy day for the president, touring around all over Beijing. The president began his day with a visit to the Great Hall of People at the heart of the city, where he was greeted by President Xi. The delegation heard the national anthem along with a 21-gun salute, and the two leaders then had a bilateral meeting. And the president commented on his relationship with Xi. Watch.
And so you like all the good, friendly stuff. I think that's an important thing here. You see again, Trump calls Xi a friend and says the relationship between China and the USA is going to be better than ever before. Sounds like normalized relations with China are coming, and we might begin to look at each other as global partners instead of enemies. Changes are coming, and Trump's friendliness here, I think, important. And here, indeed, he was invited over. Trump officially invited Xi to the White House for a state visit in September. It's my honor to extend an invitation to you and Madam Peng to visit us at the White House this September 24th. I'd now like to, he drank and had some alcohol here for the toast. Very special relationship, he said. So all good things. Now, here's where it gets interesting for us Bitcoiners. So President Xi stuns the room, saying to Trump, we should be partners, not rivals. Never in a million years thought that Xi would say something like that. The deep state is shaking right now. Why would the deep state be shaking about that? Because he came out and went even further when the Chinese foreign ministry readout was made available. Here's what was said behind closed doors. This is the important part. Xi opened by invoking the Thucydides trap, directly asking whether the two powers can forge a new model of great power relations or slide toward collision. So the important thing here by mentioning this Thucydides trap is that Bitcoiners have been saying this is the reason for Bitcoin from the very beginning, that two countries fighting over the global monetary system is more or less what the Thucydides trap is. So that trap is just that there's always an upstart empire, and that the old empire that's being replaced will start to engage to avoid the eclipse from the upstart. The upstart, it goes further into economics when you look at global reserve currencies and how money works, because that's a big trigger in general. The Thucydides trap does incentivize all of these reserve currency countries to run huge deficits, which end up destroying them. So this is what happened in the UK in history. We've seen this repeat itself many times. This is something that Bitcoiners have been repeating in our podcasts, in our spaces, since Bitcoin podcasts and content and all that stuff started. You hear regularly Max Kaiser talk about this. You hear all the people who've been making content about Bitcoin for over 10 years mention this and the need for a neutral currency that isn't tied to one country or one empire to emerge, because it's the way out of this. And, it's why I've said for a long time that Satoshi Nakamoto chose the Satoshi Nakamoto Japanese pseudonym, because he wanted the authority to say to America and the Federal Reserve in the 2008 financial crisis that you're basically Japan now, you're Japan in the 1990s. And eventually you will not be able to keep managing the reserve currency of the world because of what happened in '08, and China will take over. And so that's why we need to separate money and state and create this new regime. So looks like that's what's happening here, right? And so what does it mean? What is this mentioning the Thucydides trap openly like this and talking about this new partnership? What does it really mean, right? And how does this end up becoming? How does it end up becoming the way forward? So here's Henrik Zeberg doubting it's possible, saying, to even think for 1 second that the US administration would allow that a decentral currency unit to become reserve currency in the USD, thereby losing its hegemony, and the US fiscal situation become instantaneously unattainable, is just pure nonsense. Just stop. It's bubble chit chat. And BTC does not behave like a safe haven. It behaves like an ultra risk asset. So Henrik Zeberg here is saying that America won't allow this new, how do we avoid the Thucydides, I'll never be able to say it correctly, this Greek trap. How can that happen? America won't allow it. It's not that China will buy in, it's that America won't allow it to happen. And Sightbringer has a very good take, saying Zeberg is attacking the cartoon version of the Bitcoin thesis. He is right that Bitcoin is not about to replace the dollar as the world's day-to-day reserve currency unit. The US will not voluntarily hand global settlement, treasury demand, sanctions power, and fiscal flexibility to a decentralized asset. That version of the argument is sloppy. But the serious Bitcoin thesis was never the US wakes up one morning and lets BTC replace the dollar. The serious thesis is that Bitcoin becomes a neutral reserve asset, collateral layer, treasury asset, and escape valve inside a world where sovereign debt credibility keeps degrading. That can happen gradually, unevenly, and without the dollar instantly dying. The dollar can remain the dominant unit of account and payment rail, while Bitcoin absorbs more of the long-duration trust function. That distinction matters. His biggest mistake is assuming, this is the important line, his biggest mistake is assuming state permission determines monetary adoption. It does not. States can slow, regulate, tax, co-op, and attack. They cannot repeal demand for a bearer asset with no issuer when the system itself keeps manufacturing distrust. And this BTC trades like a risk asset point is true, but incomplete. BTC trades like an ultra risk asset because it is still in monetization, still liquidity sensitive, still reflexive, still owned by a marginal speculative capital, and still early in institutional balance sheet adoption. That does not invalidate the terminal reserve asset thesis. It describes the current phase. Gold did not become a trusted reserve asset because it had low volatility during every adoption phase. It became trusted because no one could print it, no one else's liability backed it, and it survived political cycles. Bitcoin's volatility is the price of monetization before maturity. The deeper irony is that the US may not need to destroy Bitcoin and may try to absorb it. ETFs, custody, strategic reserve framing, stablecoin, treasury rails, institutional collateralization. All of this is just bimetallism that you've been hearing here every day, perpetually for years. And so that's how it happens. It's not that America wakes up and does this. It's that things like the Thucydides trap exist, and the old world order, the old central banking cartel, relied on that relationship between China, the tension between China and the United States, to keep this thing rolling over. And at a certain point, that world didn't mind that China was going to take over. It was baked in the cake. They warned you about it for years. Oh, China, this is the Chinese century. By saying that they're not going to do it that way, China and the United States, they're extracting themselves from this old system and this old inevitability. And they're doing so in a financial arrangement that doesn't allow the old world to continue, that invites some new world. That's why the dollar is changing. That's why when you think about the Kevin Warsh appointment, you can already see in the Kevin Warsh appointment that the Bitcoin story is baked in. The Bitcoin story is baked into the Warsh appointment. Hold on a second, because the Bitcoin story is baked into the Warsh appointment because the way in which Warsh is moving forward as the secretary of the as the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and the subordinate role to the Treasury that we're seeing, is not just this story of Warsh being like Trump's dog and his lackey and doing whatever Trump says. They have an idea, and Warsh just so happens to be the person who can implement the idea because Warsh himself believes in it. Warsh, don't forget, comes from the world of venture capital. He comes from boardrooms. He writes checks. He's an actual capital allocator. And when you write checks and you spend money and you make bets, he's been betting on the economic miracle and productivity of AI and the energy build out for a long time. And because he sees this energy build out as the miracle that is possible, that America can basically outgrow its debt through productivity, he's the right guy to do this in the Federal Reserve right now. So while he is subordinate to Besant and subordinate to Trump in a way that the Federal Reserve chair has never been before, he's not inventing a policy in order to make his new bosses happy. He's got the job because he knows how to do what the bosses want in the first place. That's a big difference. That's not so simple as look at my new little puppy who I can kick and will do what I want. He's out there doing exactly what they want because it's what he understands. It's what Warsh understands. It's what Warsh has been betting on. He's one of the few people that believes in this miracle that's possible, this huge growth vector that is possible through the embrace of super energy production, of compute and a financial model to promote energy build out. And so this is a process, but he's someone who understands how to do it because he comes from that world. He actually wrote checks for data centers to build them, to build new energy systems. This is the world that Warsh is coming from. So he got the job because he knows how to do these things. And what we see now is going forward from him knowing the job and knowing how to do it, that we're setting up this new asset-backed system that really will be the credibility of public debt in America renewed and reinvigorated, not using the old world of, oh, China holds the debt to manipulate our currency to export stuff. That's what worked before. That's what brought us the Thucydides trap. That's what brought us into this tension between China and the United States. By saying that there's going to be a political money, the dollar, but that there will be new forms of US debt and new US bonds that are asset-backed, you're completely rewriting the global system and kicking out the old world. And so this asset-backed currency is a completely different way of seeing the world. And this is what we're going to see Warsh bring into the system. This is what he's here for. This is his job. And he can do the job because that is what he's been betting on for a while. So it's not pure subordination. It is hiring someone to do a job in particular that you want done. And this is why it's so different, right? The asset-backed currency plus tariffs kills the debt slavery system. And this is what you just heard the Chinese embrace. The new system, the sovereign value model, it's an asset-backed currency tied to real assets, commodities, energy, land, productive capacity, and labor. This completely, by China embracing America's leadership on this, it completely destroys the whole BRICS phenomenon. There's no need for BRICS anymore. It's just completely gone. So instead of printed money, you get the asset-backed currency. Instead of debt dependency, you get economic sovereignty. Instead of weaponized free trade, you get tariffs as governance. Instead of loss of sovereignty, you get strong domestic economy. Instead of a wealth transfer going upwards, wealth stays and circulates. And so both China and America are doing this because both of them face a lot of tension with their middle class, with their normal economies, which are falling apart. And so if they don't embrace this new system, both China and America, their destiny is now linked. And they're linked in these ways. And so an asset-backed currency in this system provides a release valve from this Thucydides, whatever, however you say it, trap. And so, even going back, right, this fiat money system that we've seen for years hasn't exactly done China a lot of favors either, right? When we see this out today, that people are talking about it, that Xi warned Trump on Taiwan, right? State media reporting that Xi comments to Trump today in Beijing for Taiwan watchers. He's saying here, don't mess with Taiwan because that will upset us and all that stuff. So there were even people yesterday, first of all, who said that, it'll be a tit for tat. Trump will ask for some help on Iran, and Xi will say to Trump, help me, give me something for Taiwan. What you have to understand about that is that's not actually possible, because in the Chinese worldview, Taiwan is non-negotiable. You don't start negotiating with something that's non-negotiable. And it's non-negotiable because the history of Taiwan is very sketchy. And it's not like Chiang Kai-shek was this freedom guy, and he was like a George Washington guy. Chiang Kai-shek, who ran the Kuomintang, who ran, he was a warlord. He ran the army, and the communists. I'm no fan of the communists, right? But go back to that Temple of Heaven and go back to the mandate. Remember what China had been living in and around during that time of humiliation. They had no more leaders at all. It was a warlord era. The era before Chiang Kai-shek was called the warlord era because there was no government and no emperor, no king, nothing. It was just tough guys running around, beating each other up, smashing each other's areas. And Chiang Kai-shek emerged out of that as the alpha warlord. When the communists came in and went against them with Chairman Mao, it was not, I know it's hard to think of communists as the good guys. I don't think there is good and bad, and especially what happens with the Cultural Revolution, it's bad. But you have to understand why there was an uptake of communist type alignment in China in the first place. The warlord era was even worse. And the warlord era was just a human meat grinder. And you could understand why the average Chinese person wanted communism at that time, because at least this type of military front was going to, in the long run, help them. And so if you understand the history of Taiwan, and not that I'm an expert, I don't know, Taiwan is one of these weird places that I don't really know too much about. But again, I don't think Trump needed any help in Iran, and I don't think anything like the tit for tat for Taiwan happened. But all of this Thucydides trap stuff that I'm telling you about, all of this getting away from the fiat era and getting away from the loss of sovereignty and making sure the average person has a bit of a chance in the system, all of that world, the fiat money, the debt dependency, the what we call here regularly the London City economic model, that comes with its deep state propaganda actors and its drugs and its human trafficking and all the other things it's plugged into, that goes right back to the original opium wars. I've had that realization, especially since Venezuela, that the central bankers, didn't just get like recently infected with drug money and human trafficking money and cartel money. They were always that. And that goes back as far, probably much earlier than the opium wars themselves. And so when you apply that whole model of the economic warlords, of the deep state that was associated with the drug trafficking and the financial system, and you run that through the Taiwan history, it's not a good look for the deep state. And it's not a good look for Chiang Kai-shek or Taiwan and them being China. That's why I've been consistent on this show telling you for at least as long as I've done it, because my opinion about Taiwan, as someone who's lived in Asia, as someone who's spent plenty of time in South Korea where I lived, Japan, I've been to a few places in China, I've been on a number of trips to China in my life. I've been all around Southeast Asia, all around Singapore, all of these places. I love Hong Kong, go there pretty regularly. I haven't actually been to Taiwan, so I am saying it's one place I don't know as much about. But I've been consistent here saying that there's no way Taiwan stays independent. There's no way in some iteration it doesn't rejoin China. And I'm for it. I don't feel a need to oppose any of that. I don't worry about losing Taiwan. Inevitably, it's going to happen, however long it takes. Now, I've told you that I believe it could destroy the China, it could destroy the CCP, but Taiwan is part of China. And so I'm not changing my opinion because of what's going on right now. But the more we look at why you see Xi and Trump agreeing to go against this global cabal, against the City of London, against the Thucydides trap, against them being in eternal conflict in order to let other financial interests and financial plumbing actually run the world outside of their conflict. The reason why I think it's there and why I think you see China making this action right now is because the truth about Taiwan is it's another product of the City of London and of the deep state and of all the forces that as Bitcoiners we're fighting against. Here's the real story of Taiwan. Her direct ties are, and so this is now talking about Mitch McConnell's family. We're going to talk about Mitch McConnell later. But this is Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao. So Kyle Bass here, a Bitcoiner for a long time. Kyle Bass is someone I knew in the early days. He's one of the oldest Bitcoiners I know, right? So this guy here, Kyle Bass, definitely a deep state actor, by the way. He's a Texan. By deep state, he's not anti-Trump or anything like that. But I mean, he's a financial hitman, some kind of spy, some kind of intelligence guy. And so very early in Bitcoin, that's how I knew him. I knew Kyle Bass from probably 2015 capital allocations to Bitcoin. He's been around that long. So he says some incredulous stuff because, again, he's operating in the world of persuasion, of economic persuasion. He's not out there just being an honest guy. But I believe he believes in all of this stuff, and I think he's a patriot, and I wouldn't think of him at all as an enemy. Just remember, he's spinning. He's playing a game here and has been for a long time. And so here he is talking about Mitch McConnell, all stuff I agree with. And the truth about her family, Elaine Chao's family, comes through in the actual story of what's going on. Her direct ties are the Chinese island of Formosa, where the CIA set up the Chinese warlord, Opium King, General Chiang Kai-shek in post-World War II. You call that island Taiwan today. There are almost 30,000 Formosan killed to bring Chiang and his Kuomintang army to hang out there and provide opium to the CIA network for decades. As a matter of fact, right up until Nixon recognized mainland China even existed formally, everyone in Washington and Western capitals pretended an opium warlord peddling heroin to their citizens via their intel agency was the Chinese government in exile. The Taiwan Army was funded by the CIA, the Taiwan Navy was set up by the CIA's Sea Supply, and the Taiwan Air Force was set up by CIA's Civil Air Transport, Flying Tigers, General Claire Chennault, and William Pauley. Her parents were among the first Kuomintang Chinese to show up on Formosa, as she was born there in 1953. James Chow, a former officer of the Nationalist Chinese Merchant Marine, founded Foremost Maritime Corporation in 1964. The primary trade of nationalist Chinese was opium/heroin, and after World War II, largely with CIA coordination. Their connections to China involves the Export-Import Bank of China, a state-owned entity to fund the construction of its vessels in Chinese state-owned shipyards. Why would they need China? Because the U.S. shipyards are decades behind. And then there is this little nugget. Chiang Kai-shek's wife, Sung Mi Ling, is buried at Ferncliff Cemetery in some other location as Ruth Moomin Chu Chow, Elaine's mother. I'm sure that's a coincidence. Elaine's dad's biography isn't written in English, even though he's been here since the 1950s. It's a fairy tale that doesn't explain how he attended an elite university in the international enclave of Shanghai, controlled by foreign governments after the British won the Boxer War, forcing Indian-grown opium into China for decades, which gave birth to Chiang's opium empire. It also doesn't address how he, after graduating from the elite school, became a maritime captain and served a defeated corrupt regime Kuomintang warlord and moved Taiwan along the rest of the opium mafia dons and had enough connections, money, and security clearances to immediately enter the highest echelons of American maritime shipping industry just a few years later. Lots of sob stories about the struggle when in fact there wasn't any struggle. Anyone discussing China as it relates to the Chow family is retarded, ignorant, or both. And so, Chow, we're going to talk about Mitch McConnell in a second. He got some attention from Trump yesterday. But this is why I don't oppose Taiwan going back to China. This was some deep state drug war bullshit that separated them. And as someone who's, proudly North American, I would be pretty pissed off if like Hawaii was taken from America 100 years later. I would still be pissed off about that. And so I wouldn't let it go. Now, I don't, I probably wouldn't choose to flood America with fentanyl, which clearly happened. But at the same time, if I saw this opportunity and understood that America itself was not a sovereign state when it comes to any of this stuff, it was acting inside of a system and was pushed inside of that system in the direction it was, then that's the reason why I would, choose this other approach. And so the truth is, right, and if we look at all the stuff that's going on today, and then we look at all of the news from yesterday, for example, when we played that CIA whistleblower who came out, we understand now and realize that those same CIA that set up Taiwan was not actually civilian-controlled American system. They were being controlled by the deep state and other actors, right? So this is the same fella here, Colonel Towner Watkins, talking about what the CIA really is. The CIA has never worked for the president. So he does so talking about this picture of JFK here, because as we saw yesterday, when the CIA guy came out and testified, it sounds like the CIA testified against Fauci. Sounds like they came in and raided his office, took away JFK files, MK Ultra files, all the kind of stuff that Tulsi Gabbard was about to release. There were rumors even last night that Tulsi Gabbard's office was swept, but those have been rescinded. That's not true. That's not what happened. But here, that whole story from this same guy saying the CIA has never worked for the president. It wasn't created to work for the president. It was a continuation of an international syndicate that walked the world into World War II in order to create international government entities to implement one world government. Prior to World War II, they had to pay their own intel assets and paramilitary to overthrow foreign governments and install patsy dictators. World War II changed everything for them. They had the UN, IMF, World Bank, every country set up intel agencies and standing militaries paid for by taxing the citizens, relieving them of the expense. The CIA set out to overthrow every head of state that declared neutrality or opposition to the US's control or were declared neutral in the choice between USSR and US/NATO. No one on earth was able to conduct free trade, no trading with neutral governments, no trading with the USSR. The economic warfare was brutal, including starvation of entire economies. Kissinger make their economy scream. The political warfare included in creating entire political parties to unseat governments, interfere in elections, and paying for votes. Sound familiar? That's what we've been dealing with in America. That's why my frame has been from the beginning that World War II set up these international institutions. The World War II consensus set up international governance models. It created all these things, and it took control of America during the coup and assassination of Kennedy. Nixon tried to come back, but there was a coup on him as well. That's why the redemption of Nixon is such an important storyline right now. And we more or less have been living under this system for all of these years. The financial system is just a part of it. It's how it's weaponized. It's how it works. JFK's assassination was a blip on their screen. Anyone saying there was a single country behind it is ignorant of history and blinded to the actual evidence. De Gaulle is on record saying the same people that were attempting to kill him killed JFK. He had actual evidence that prior to Dallas, an assassination attempt was paid for by the CIA using OAS assassin that has been implicated in one of de Gaulle's assassination attempts. The assassin backed out at the last moment. Remember, de Gaulle brought France out of NATO. France was not in NATO in those years. And that's why France to this day has its own military industrial complex, because it doesn't want to be beholden. There is still some bit of sovereignty in France for these reasons. It was going to be staged to look like another bumbled de Gaulle assassination attempt that missed and got JFK, all documented. What is equally true is the syndicate not only wanted Israel to have nuclear weapons, so what have I said? Israel is fake, created for division, just like Iran. That's why the no sharing of Five Eyes intelligence around the Strait of Hormuz and the rescission of the Hormuz war insurance was the biggest story of the Iran war by far. It's the only story of the Iran war, because it's a sign that this edifice, this syndicate is breaking, and that what's being actually extrapolated and extracted from Hormuz is the power of this syndicate, of this European cabal with Americans and Chinese and Shanghai Shek and all the others that were involved. And indeed here, they are also the same who paid for Pakistan's nuclear weapons. Why? The strategy of tension. You control everyone in the area by ensuring one of the players you control has them. The fake countries they set up after World War II have nuclear weapons for a reason. Fake countries, guys. Israel is fake. The Jewish people living there are real, but it was created for this purpose, which is the same guy I was telling you that story with the thing in Abu Dhabi. That's what I said to him over the last 2 years. What about all this stuff? What about all this stuff about Israel? What are we supposed to do? Do we have to be friends with Israel now? Is that the deal? And he was willing, his mind is open to it. But when I laid it out in this way, he finally said, okay, I get it. Like they're a victim of all this stuff the same way the Palestinians are. Eventually, and I believe that's the same reason why Saudi is going to be a good steward of Israel, because better to be a steward of what's left of Israel than allow all of the trouble that England and the UK was creating in the Middle East to continue to fester and perpetuate. The division and trouble between Iran and Hezbollah and all this stuff is just not worth it. And why get involved in the same tension and align with the people who want to wipe Israel off the face of the map, when all you have to do is accept this little tiny piece of land and some Jews living there that are victims of this same fight. And we're through it. We're done. No more trouble. And so there you go. The fake countries set up after World War II have nuclear weapons for a reason. If you need a regional war as cover for an operation, you rattle the cages of the neighbors, weapons, aid, money flows, redirect to the black ops, and everyone moves on. The bilking of this system has ran for 75 years, stealing our wealth, and is all very well documented. It is this entire system that we're dealing with. And here you can see that the CIA whistleblower yesterday and all the stuff that we're talking about, that's why it happened the same day, and why you can see this deep state is now definitely the main target. As I've been saying with the JFK story for years, today a CIA whistleblower sat before my committee and confirmed what I've said for years. Government officials, including Fauci, deliberately misled the American people about the origins of COVID-19. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is sworn testimony. Now, notice that this deep state function still relates to China. I don't think China was deliberately releasing the Wuhan virus. I think they lied about stuff after to hide their own culpability, but China was a victim of this global coup just as much as America was. And, how did they participate? Not sure. We're going to find out more. But here, Rand Paul goes on about all of this sworn testimony we saw yesterday. And indeed, that's why you're seeing DNI Gabbard being targeted. Observe the top three things DNI Gabbard was investigating: treasonous conspiracy against Trump, election integrity, specifically mail-in ballots from Fulton County, COVID origins, and U.S. biolabs. All of these are connected. How COVID was a man-made virus that was created with U.S. taxpayer dollars via CIA, USAID, Project Predict. Now, this is what China's been saying from the beginning. Right? China has been saying this from the beginning. Trump called it the China virus, but look at what they can do now together to expose who really did COVID. That's why I think it's coming, right? COVID was the next phase of the treasonous coup to remove Trump after the Mueller investigation and impeachment attempts failed. COVID was a tool used by the deep state to create the conditions for them to steal the election. It's all part of the same plot. Tulsi is telling us that she is doing with her actions. The entire case is being built, and they know exactly where the trail ends. This is happening, and it looks more and more like it is. And if you think of the architecture, right, the architecture, I call it the architecture of deceit. They call it here the architecture of control and the path of disclosure. So why I told you we were pivoting from the moment this China trip was over, the Iran war was done, Warsh is in place, the 250th of the United States is coming, that they would use the 250th narrative and a bunch of disclosure over the summer to really start changing the world. Kayfabe, wrestling stuff the whole time. Observing Consciousness says, let's zoom all the way out. What people are witnessing is the slow exposure of an entire control architecture built around perception itself. JFK represented the fracture point where trust in government quietly broke beneath the surface. MKUltra later confirmed intelligence agencies were willing to experiment on consciousness, behavior, trauma, suggestion, and psychological conditioning itself, while modern censorship systems, algorithmic shaping, media synchronization, NGO influence networks, and narrative enforcement mechanisms revealed the industrialization of perception management in the digital age. These were never isolated events. They were compartmentalized layers of the same evolving system operating across generations. Game theory explains why disclosure unfolds this way. A population cannot instantaneously absorb the realization that reality itself may have been socially engineered through fear cycles, information asymmetry, controlled opposition, emotional priming, and strategic narrative sequencing without risking societal fragmentation. So the system must be revealed incrementally through contradiction, archive releases, institutional failure, whistleblowers, lawsuits, leaks, and synchronized pattern recognition until the public begins assembling the architecture on its own. The true disclosure is not hidden inside one set of files. It is the realization that modern power evolved beyond controlling territory or economies and moved into controlling perception, emotion, memory, and consciousness itself. So this map here is not so different than the whiteboards I've created. It's a little, different direction, but he calls it the onion of control. And this is the story of the 20th century. And this is exactly what we're changing. I like some of these emojis. State system collapse, we're kind of around there. Reconstruction, we're getting into that. Hard proofs, we're in this world now, right? Contradictions, leaks and whistleblowers, mass awareness, hard proofs, we're in that point. System collapse, we're in that point. And it's moving slowly, sure, but that's natural, right? That's hard to hard to induce by telling people, as we've understood for a long time in Bitcoin. As Bitcoiners, again, we've been telling people that story for years. You live in a world controlled by banking cartel, and the banking cartel wants you dead, scared, emotionally drained, on edge, anxious, and it's doing everything in its power to make you that way all the time. And so when Bitcoiners have tried to tell people this over time, we've all seen the eye rolls and the I don't believe you stuff and all of that. But in the end, the new financial system that takes us from this world of managed perception and reality, it's so hard. You've got to draw people through it, as we've seen in Bitcoin. That's why this new sovereign value system is going to be there as reconstruction continues to proceed. It's going to be there as we continue to reorient our financial system into something that will provide the recalibration of the narrative, so that we can get back to healthier lives. And both China and America have this problem because the system is no longer helping its average people, and they can't figure that out. So that's why you see the CIA come out yesterday. The committee acted in bad faith by subpoenaing an agency officer for testimony today without notifying the CIA. Oh no, the Congress has to notify the CIA now. Okay. The Senate of the United States of America has to notify the CIA because they want to investigate or study something. Dishonest political theater masquerading as congressional hearings. So this is a spokesperson for the CIA talking about this. Here, leaving everything else aside, this is even a real post in May 2026 under a President Trump administration. These people sound as rogue as ever, which was already obvious when they tried to dismiss the Russiagate hoax as mere tradecraft errors, forcing Tulsi Gabbard to step in and publicly call them out. I like John Ratcliffe. He did important work in both Russiagate and COVID origins in the past, but the CIA director who allows this kind of totally inverted garbage to be pushed out under his watch does not appear to have control. But again, it's all theater, guys. Having them come out this way is the important thing. And the Nixon story, that's why it's a big deal, right? Redeeming Richard Nixon is one of the most significant cultural and spiritual projects of our era. The coup against him is the skeleton key of deep state machinations and conspiracies with the fake news media. And it's incredible to see. I'll play this Richard Nixon Foundation video, but I am loving the incredible revitalization and redemption arc that we see Nixon on here. And I'm just glad that we have these Richard Nixon Foundation creating these videos, and people out there trying to like this. There's a person out there whose main job it is making Richard Nixon look cool using the native media format of the 21st century, the edit. This person is going to have more impact on American politics than most congressmen. And you just love to see.
Is from nothing. Yeah. Self-made man, the Abe Lincoln of California, who was vice president of the United States 6 years after getting out of the Navy. Kennedy, I see a silver spoon. Nixon, I see myself.
Out in the six, I'm a national treasure. That bad me gon' bad me forever. R.B. Kobe, but y'all brokey. That's probably why y'all be shacking together. Capo and leader got habits together like couples vacation.
I'm gonna get copyrighted, so I'm not gonna keep doing that. But there you go. Cool that Nixon is being redeemed. Cool that that's all happening. And hold on, I have one more video that I needed to play before I get into the next stuff. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did this thing go? Come on, video, where are you? Huh? Oh, here it is. Yes. So I found it. So when you see all of this stuff falling apart, when you see this deep state coming apart at the seams, and oh, I've been off this whole time. There you go. When you see this deep state coming apart at the seams, when you see the proxy war between the City of London emerge with the new financial system that's coming out, and you realize that the thing that the Chinese and the Americans have in common is this making sure the average person, because they're just too squeezed, making sure the average person has some hope, because it's more or less the only way they can keep their own legitimacy coming forward. you see where this partnership is there, and you can see these failed attempts. I'll show you in a second. History. There's a Promethean action video about it, but I'll also play this one about what's happening in front of us and why things are getting so crazy in the world right now. Show you this guy's video. So, and why the Carney stuff and Slotkin and Obama in Canada this week is so funny. So here's this guy's been going on Rich Does Politics a lot. It's a pretty interesting fella.
You know, we're watching a global system get dismantled in real time, and most people, they have no idea what it even is. We're in the middle of a complete global restructure, and that's what I've been talking about for the last 3 days, if you've been listening. 2 days ago, I talked about Trump cutting off globalist money pipelines flowing out of Venezuela and South America. And then yesterday, I talked about how America is divorcing itself from Europe, unfortunately. And today, we're talking about a brand new economic powerhouse forming right in front of us. So here's the through line. For decades, a tiny network of unelected institutions, central banks, supernatural clubs, and a globalist architecture behind the dollar system quietly decided how the world works. It wasn't presidents, it wasn't voters, and it wasn't the nations. And that's exactly why parts of Washington are melting down right now. Parts of Europe are even melting down as well. Because Trump is dismantling that system piece by piece faster than anyone expected, and the Europeans are freaking out. Look at the AI chip approvals with China. That wasn't weakness, that was leverage. And sending Kushner and Witkoff speaking directly to Putin, that bypassed the old diplomatic channels that have controlled global affairs for over 70 years. And now we have this provocative idea bouncing around DC. Listen to this. They're calling it the Core Five. America, China, Russia, India, and Japan. A strategic alignment that sidelines Europe overnight. Do you realize what's going on here? Do you see the scale of what's happening? And of course, the White House denies it. They have to, right now anyway. But everyone in the national security world is saying the same thing. You know what? It fits the pattern. Trump already called the G7 obsolete. He thinks the UN Security Council is a museum piece, and he's openly challenging NATO. And the new national security strategy? Well, it literally warns that Europe faces civilizational erasure. You may not like his style, but he's not wrong about the system being broken. And here's the real danger, and I mean danger for him. When you start dismantling global lifelines, the financial networks, the alliances, the influence circuits that keep entire nations and institutions alive, you don't just disrupt power. You expose all the ride-alongs, the fake supporters, the people terrified that their world of profit and power is ending. That's why you see all the panic. That's why you see all this infighting in Europe. And that's why the same people who pretended to love America are now screaming as the old structure collapses, because this right here is a restructuring of the world order. And they're losing power and money. And for the first time in our lifetime, it's being led not by globalists, but by a man and a movement who believes the nation should control their own destiny. And that puts him in dire danger. America first triggered them before like crazy. But America restructured, that terrifies him even more. And here's what most people aren't even noticing. This restructuring doesn't just challenge Europe or South America. It challenges BRICS. Because if the USA, China, Russia, India, and Japan form a stable competitive economic bloc, then BRICS loses its leverage altogether. It loses its urgency and possibly its entire purpose, which is good for the Americans. This forces them to rethink everything, the same way it forces Europe to rethink everything. And all of this is exactly what Trump said he was going to do in the first place. So when you look at this moment, ask yourself something. What's missing? If all of this is breaking apart, where's the foundation? Where's the leadership at? Our level, the citizens. And this is exactly why we go back to the same message I always share. Citizen servant leaders matter now more than ever, because the world is shifting so fast. People are sick of bureaucrats and polished politicians. It's the citizens, you, in your town, your city, your state, your nation, who must decide what comes next. The bureaucratic elite, these global institutions controlling everything, it's cracking in a big way. And if we get in there, citizens who aren't bought, who aren't beholden, who are free, then we can lead. And you know what? It's time that we lead. It's time to take America back. Join me on Patreon and find out how.
So that's what Bitcoiners have been doing, and that's why we're going to win, because Bitcoiners are engaged in this way, and you don't need everyone. I see Chef Zero saying, you know, will the sludge people handle the truth? we don't need everyone to handle it. We don't. It's not this democratic thing that we need this person and that person. We have the advantage as Bitcoiners that as long as we continue to influence industries like energy, the only ones that matter, Wall Street, we're able, and if we recalibrate these two powerful and important industries, we can reprogram people's version of reality, which will make them align with power. And that, with all these people looking to align with power and make some money and all that, that's a plausible result. And while you look at this as an economic race, here's Barbara Boyd talking about the losers in Canada finally understanding at Promethean Action that they're trying to pivot now, but they don't have the same plans. They don't have the same perception as what we've seen from Bitcoiners and Trump. They don't have the same worldview that can compete in this way. So here's this latest video from Promethean Action describing that they're trying to pivot to middle class issues, but it's not working.
Now, Susan Kokinda told you on Monday about Mark Carney's meeting in Canada with Barack Obama and the people who ran his administration. It was a desperate summit trying to figure out how to recapture the American working class, the people who see Donald Trump as their last defense against the likes of Obama, Schlotkin, and Carney's central bankers. Carney's idea is to have Canada and the UK join the EU and collaborate against US, China, and Russia. But the UK population is in revolt and is ousting their man there, Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer, Tony Blair's heir, Obama's protege, the safe pair of hands the rules-based order needed in London, just got smashed in last Thursday's local elections. He's vowed to soldier on in what he calls a 10-year project. But the UK population wants none of it. Here's a meme summing up the situation. Now, the way Carney's crowd thinks Europe can revive its collapsing economy is through defense spending. And that depends on the Ukraine war continuing. But there's huge problems there too. On Monday, Ukraine's National Anti-Corruption Bureau named Andrei Yermak, Zelensky's former chief of staff and lead negotiator with the United States, as a
My audio, yes. There we go. Yes, my audio was off. Yes. Pardon me. I had paused it for a second and forgot. So muted. Yes. I see your things coming in. So just look at the panic in Canada as a result of all of this stuff right now. The fun things are they're not going to get their way. Here's the latest from Canada. They have this spy bill in Canada, but it requires US tech companies to provide them on-demand backdoor access to social media encryption, and both the tech companies and the US government are currently refusing. So, come on, America, help us. We want to censor your people, but not working out in the way they hoped. You saw yesterday the king, of course, saying that his ministers will proceed with the introduction of digital ID. Look at this guy. Look at him. He's trying to compete against the spectacle of Trump and Xi in China. It's not working very well, King Charles. You look a bit ridiculous. Look at this guy. It's just not happening. And of course, here they're panicking. Emergency meetings in Canada. Behind closed doors, Keir Starmer refusing to resign. Unrest building propaganda arms ramping up COVID-like fear-mongering, and the king mandating digital ID and surveillance state across Commonwealth nations. Something is happening. They're losing. It's hilarious. Indeed, here's the COVID stuff is very funny. Yesterday, the BBC itself tried to put this clip out. We've talked about this all week, how the same crisis actor was around during COVID, and then again, he was the guy on the hantavirus ship. And here, the BBC put the first clip out of this crisis actor on Facebook an hour ago. They're still doing it as of yesterday. They're still trying to treat this guy as legit. And a lot of people noticed yesterday as well, the quiet on set, the hantavirus photo op didn't quite go as planned. The photographer snuck into the shot. I guess it's not that dangerous because the photographer doesn't need to wear the biohazmat suit. So it's a big failure and it's just not going anywhere. Now it gets even better because as this stuff is failing, you're seeing other organs of the state start to fail in real time. And here I'll show you one that's just perfect. Hold on. So I'll show you one that's just perfect. It's something that we're seeing in the United States too. One of the last vestiges of this old system are the democratic courts, democracies. We have a courts and all the stuff, the injunctions they're using against Trump. Here you had a judge in Canada yesterday in the middle of nowhere, New Brunswick. So way shithole province on the east coast of Canada. When I say a shithole, I mean it's a real fucking shithole, right? Beautiful, 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 but economically absolutely forgotten. If you guys know some of the dark side of New England, how it's been hollowed out, how some stuff is really shitty and empty, this is like that on steroids. Our maritime provinces in Canada are more hollowed out and more of a shit pile than New England. And so some backwater judge in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, New Brunswick, not even 1 million people in the state, in the province, not even close to 1 million, right? I think the biggest towns are Moncton and Fredericton, and we're not talking 100,000 person towns here. Maybe at the limit they're that. But small towns, really, it's a small state, smaller than, I think, Vermont. I think Vermont would be much bigger than the population of New Brunswick. So a tiny, stupid, retarded state in Canada, and a judge therein has said that Alberta can't have a referendum. So he or she struck down the Alberta referendum for October that was based on all the petitions. And so they're even going for Alberta can't separate. Here's the premier, the governor of Alberta, saying we're probably going to do this anyway.
Probably of Albertans who believe that should have been put to a question as well. And the fact that the justice decided that there needed to be consultation. It's unclear what that means exactly in the future. What does it say about the fact that independence movements, or just the question of independence movements in Canada moving ahead? Is Canada, I don't know, a prison that you can't get out of with any other means?
Well, you know, I guess we will have to talk with our Quebec counterparts to see what they think about this kind of ruling. I would say that it is a single judge who's made a decision, and we have now 700,000 Albertans, whether they're on the Remain side or the Leave side, who've said that they want to have this public debate. So our citizen initiative petition was always meant to be very permissive, and we kept on having to modify it to ensure that that permissive quality was in there. We want to hear from Albertans. That's what we think democracy is. And we'll be meeting with our caucus and cabinet to further review the decision and decide next steps. But as I say, since we believe that this one is incorrect in law and anti-democratic, we will be appealing it.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll go to Julia, then we'll go to Cindy.
Julia Wong, CBC National. Premier, I know they said that you're going to be meeting and discussing next steps. Last week, we heard from Mitch Sylvester that if this court challenge was successful, he would tell people to sign up for the UCP membership so that they could try to force your hand, get this ballot out there in the fall. So my question is, will you listen to party members or will you respect the court's decision?
Well, I'll listen to my caucus and I'll listen to my cabinet because we are the duly elected representatives of the people of Alberta. And this is a decision by one judge at a lower court level, and it's appealable. And so because we think they have been incorrect in law, we will be appealing it. And we want to restore the idea of having a permissive approach to our citizen-initiated referendum. And so questions. And so we have to discuss, of course, we want to be in compliance with what the judgment has.
So this is just panic. It's not going to work out. This is the dumbest thing they could have done. And, you know, especially because it is tight, right? The referendum, if it passes for Alberta to separate as of now, was always going to be a nail biter. But the more attention they give to stopping it using procedure, using bureaucracy, using all these things, it's all going to be a Streisand effect. I mean, this is going to radicalize. The last thing Alberta, that the Canadian sludge people can handle right now, is if Quebec populists. Now, again, that's what makes this question aligned with everything else that's happening in the world. Everything that I just said about a bottom-up change, that the middle class thing has to work, and that if it doesn't work, then you're not going to have any alignment, that people are aligning with power, and that a system that cultivates enough wealth for middle-class people is going to attract a lot of people. And it will break through the brainwashing. It'll break through the narrative control. Why energy and the money questions, both of those questions are so important. Now, one of the things that's amazing about Canada is that both Quebec and Alberta are not conservative. They've never really been conservative. Anyone who says Alberta because they vote conservative is conservative doesn't really have their finger on the pulse of what Alberta is. Alberta is populist. They're more like MAGA. They're more like Trump's iteration of politics. And Quebec is populist, kind of fascist in its populist stuff. It's not right-wing. It's not left-wing. It's not right-wing. They don't really pray to the altar of Canadian progressive gods. That's not like Quebec doesn't give a shit about universal health care. They don't measure themselves in Quebec as not being American because they have free healthcare. That's not a thing in Quebec. They don't give a shit about that. Quebec is National Socialist, all right? By National Socialist, they're very similar to the kind of thing that Trump is trying to create with MAGA. The kind of thing that we already see Warsh and all these guys betting on, this huge energy buildup that will be so big that it will make the life for the average person that much better. Quebec embraced this a long time ago. Quebec is the end state of what Trump is trying to reinvigorate MAGA to be. Quebec has nothing. The thing that is separating Quebec from Canada is the immigration question. As so-called socialist and left-wing as Quebec can be, they're the opposite when it comes to things like immigration. They're not the same. They don't want immigration. They've never wanted it. So while they are socialist, high taxes and all that stuff's more negotiable. That can be changed pretty quickly. And why they were a huge COVID lockdown place, again, that's more because they're more fascist than they are left-wing. And if they decide on something, it gets enforced from the top down. And you know, people ask me, why do you go back to Quebec? It's a socialist place. Not exactly the truth. And especially with COVID. I mean, I avoided all the COVID stuff here and did not repatriate for that reason. And I have my worries about it. But when I look at the scenario that they're setting up, having populist Quebec and populist Alberta aligning over Canada's authority over their ability to have a referendum, this is a nightmare for Canada. This is the worst case scenario. This is the country that I was working on, the project, the national project, the Confederate reinvigoration project I worked on in Canada in my younger days when I was a law student. And the reason why I joined Stephen Harper's government and Stephen Harper's movement in Canada in the mid-2000s was because I believed in this populist version of Quebec and Alberta running the country, running Confederation versus the centralized top-down City of London, I didn't really think in terms of City of London back then. I knew about the City of London. I was aware of all of this stuff at the time. But this is not, this left wing, right wing, conservative thing is not really what I was working on. We had libertarians, we had, small c conservatives, we call them. So the type of conservative that would have been at home in the George Bush GOP. But we had a lot of populists, and that was a major difference from what we saw in the US at the time. That's why I recognized Trump right away. I recognized him as the populist we didn't get in Canada. We had people like Pierre Poilievre, who was like a small c conservative, who was never a populist. And so that he was all about the war in Iraq. He was all about that kind of stuff. And so I never really got along with him very well for those reasons. And I hated the way he was in question period and all that stuff. So I don't know about hated. But there you go. The judiciary is the scummy part of Canada now. And it's the same type of bureaucratic control that the City of London has used for years, and it's getting opposed. And it's happening in America too. The Bar Association, right? We're seeing these stories from the Bar Association here, and this is January 6th related. This is more of that deep state stuff. So bringing it back to America and seeing how this war on the deep state is getting prosecuted. This war on the bureaucracy is getting prosecuted. Here's a new one. The DOJ is suing the DC Bar Association for targeting former Trump official Jeff Clark. This is in relation to January 6th. So the Bar Association, if you listen to Mike Benz talk about the architecture of deceit, he has put this Bar Association as one of the choke points, one of the filters, one of the things that came out about the bureaucratization and the consolidation of power in America in DC institutions that were not political, that had no enfranchisement, that had no votes. This is that top-down infrastructure coming apart. Mike Benz has been targeting the Bar Association for a long time. So this is a major front in the war on the deep state going after the Bar Association. And you're seeing it more and more, right? The kind of stuff they did, especially with the J6 stuff, right? Get a load of the anti-conservative vitriol on social media from one of the attorneys persecuting Jeff Clark. This was the heavy politicization of what was going on there. The reasoned elaboration, we can understand judges' decision to develop new law. Trump judges, laugh my ass off, watch this. All completely crazy stuff. My dear friend, that's, remember when it was, he got some free trips? Remember when it was Clarence Thomas got free trips, right? That was the big deal. So here, incredible find, and notice there was no effort to even hide the bias. They believe that they can get away with anything, show trials like in the Stalin era. And but it's falling apart because look what's happening. We got more whistleblowers. We got more of this stuff. We got more January 6th stuff coming in the news. The current House Select Committee investigating January 6th asked us to delay reporting on a new explosive Capitol Police whistleblower revelation. They asked us to give them 2 weeks before publishing. We gave them 5 weeks, and then they ghosted us. And here I assert the January 6th message fundamentally alters the understanding of responsibility for January 6th, presenting what I believe is direct evidence of a conspiracy involving USCP personnel and Democratic staff. So former high-ranking Capitol Police whistleblower, stand by. And so January 6th coming back in the news, declassification coming back in the news. We're seeing more and more of these deep state folks coming out. This is one yesterday, the accidental acting FBI director for 31 days who took it upon himself to become the guardian of the corrupt bureaucracy and defy direct orders. This clip really shows who this guy is and what badass Amel Bove was in those first few months confronting an army of Driscoll-like saboteurs across DOJ and FBI. But none of this stuff is working anymore. And even the deep state staffers, right? This is the one I mentioned I was going to talk about. Trump yesterday going out against staffers, Mitch McConnell's staffer. I've seen this in real time in Canada and other places, that by taking away a lot of the discretion from elected officials over the years and obfuscating it by using staffers. I did this job. I did what this guy did. I did this exact job. I reported to the Prime Minister of Canada. and I worked inside of parliamentary committees. And I basically, when I walked into the room with a lot of these senators, now privately, I didn't have authority, but if I had some mission from the prime minister and I walked in, I had what we called a whip. I worked in the whip's office, which is your trip is canceled. You're not going there. You're not doing this. Do what I say right now, or all of this goes away. And that's very typical in these systems. And Trump here calling that out. It's not okay, right? I performed it, but that was reality at the time. But the world has changed and that stuff's not going to work anymore. So there you go. We got all of these guys. No, that's not what I wanted to stop sharing, because I have to stop sharing because we got a visitor. Hank is in the house. How you doing, Hank?
Hey, Nolan, I hear you were whipping people into shape. What was that about?
Oh, I had a whip. They even had it on the wall. We had an actual whip.
Oh, wow.
Put in a frame and put up on
getting
the wall.
all too real.
You know? Oh yeah, it was a big giant whip too.
Very fun. It
had the pass. It was an actual whip that you whip humans with. So
wow,
it was legit. Yeah.
Well, when you weren't talking about punishing people with this whip, what else were you guys chatting about today on the show?
Well, we had a good one. We talked all about the Trump trip. I'm sure we're going to talk about it on your show next.
Mm-hmm.
And we did see the signs of what I was talking about yesterday. They mentioned the Thucydides. I never know how to pronounce it. The Thucydides trap, which is really about changing financial system. And so the signals were all there to what we talked about yesterday. This isn't about soybeans. It's about something much bigger.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'll be excited to get into it. We got some fun stuff. And I don't know if you heard one out of California. I'm not sure if you and I will be getting into it, but did you see Newsom's new proposal? They're spending nearly $200 million to give all of the inmates in the state new tablets.
iPads.
Yes,
I saw that. Yes, there's so much good content. They can't miss the new Ulysses movie. They need first access. They've got to see Ellen Elliott Page be Achilles.
I love Nolan, but I am so curious as to how he's going to make that work.
No, it's over. This is the end of him. This is the end of him. Yeah, he's not going to be able to survive this.
He's never made a bad movie.
Looks like it.
Like he really hasn't made a bad movie. His filmography is incredible. Even his early
you're
ones.
Right. Yeah. What was one of the early ones that he made?
Memento was like his big breakout, but he also had that one with Pacino and Robin Williams called Insomnia.
Oh yeah. That was a very
where
good
they're in
movie.
Alaska.
I love that movie.
That's an interesting
one.
one.
So good. Yeah, I remember seeing that in the theaters.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, the thing survive a bad movie.
I would say the thing about him is, and because people have been saying this for a while, it's like everyone even talking about Troy a lot lately. Like Troy was like a B movie in the
Troy
90s
wasn't great
whenever it came out,
just big names,
or the 2000s.
Yeah,
but now in retrospect, it looks great compared to how shitty everything else is.
Well,
like people are loving.
We haven't seen the Odyssey yet, so maybe it'll surprise us. But
no, it's not. I don't know. It was all about. It looks like it's clear that it was about the Academy Award matrix of how to win an award. You have to have a black person and a supporting girl and this and that and blah blah blah. Like even Anne Hathaway's role and even the version of the script they're using is like a feminist rewriting of Ulysses from the 90s.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's not going to be good.
Like I understand like movies in today's world reflecting the world we live in now, but it's like I don't think it was a melting pot the same way back then. But maybe it was. I don't know. But I'll be curious to see it.
Wasn't.
It probably wasn't. I'm trying to give Nolan some room here to work, but
it's going to fail. It might. I believe it's going to fail so bad that it's going to mark a before and after in cinema. It's going to usher in. Yeah. It's going to usher in the AI stuff first of all, because. Like we've been talking about with the Harry Potter thing, like they're going to race swap using AI, reverse race swap Adam Driver into that Harry Potter show. He's going to be Snape.
Oh my
and
gosh.
They're going to. People, I mean, fans.
Well, the race swap Harry Potter thing has different parts that makes that particularly touchy, right? Because like the whole
it's gonna be
narrative,
terrible.
like it kind of changes it a little bit, right? Because it's
going to be unwatchable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they spent $1 billion in that series already. They constructed all of Hogwarts. It's crazy. The kids actually live and work in the buildings too, which is nuts.
Is that so? I didn't know that.
That's what I heard.
I like practical. Yeah, I believe it.
It's supposed to be, this is supposed to go on for the next decade. So they're spending. I think they spent $1 billion.
They built a papier-mâché school.
Yeah. So lots to talk about today.
Let's talk about it later. All right, man. See you soon.
See you
soon. Peace. All right, I'll be over with Hank. Come join us. Moving houses today. Thank you for the superb content and keep me interested. You got it, Zombie Co FL. Hope your new place in Florida is great. And hope you're staying in Florida. We love Florida. Thanks for all the comments today, folks. Lots of people. Trump saved the USA and the world. Trust Trump. And Q indeed. Dark to light. Good times coming. We love it. You cannot defeat the factory of the world, China. No, you can't. You can absorb them, though. Absorb it, which is what we want. We want the best for China. They've been through so much, guys. I mean, we shouldn't be. I understand it's a communist shithole. We got to kill the communism. But we got to hope and pray we can save the Chinese people, because hundreds of years of garbage that they've been living in is just not worth it. Bullwhip Bowerly, you got it. Oh, that Premier old boy, you're in worse trouble than I thought. No, she's good. She's good, Chef Zero. She's good. She's good. No, watch it, Chief. My Premier. She's good. She's good. Boring lady. She is a boring. Yes, she's boring. Yes, she is boring. Thanks for the fab show. Indeed. All right, everyone. Great show. Thanks, Nolan. Okay, folks. iPad for criminals. Sounds about right. Then they can vote. There you go. All right. Let's say goodbye for now. I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, Tom Luongo is going to be on the Canada show in the afternoon. That should be a lot of fun. I'm going to see you all tomorrow morning before that. And please come over and have a look at Hank's show next. I'm about to play the logo. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you tomorrow or later today. Bye.